Welcome to Lecture 1 for Chapter Number 1, The Human Body and Orientation. In this lecture, we're going to be building the foundation for the entire Anatomy and Physiology course. We're going to begin by distinguishing anatomy from physiology, then move through the levels of organization in the human body, and finish with the survey of the 11 organ systems. As you watch, focus on understanding the major ideas rather than memorizing every detail on the first pass. These concepts will come up repeatedly throughout the semester. These are the learning objectives for today's lecture. By the end of this section, you should be able to define anatomy and physiology, explain how structure and function are related, describe the major levels of organization from simplest to most complex, and identify the 11 organ systems along with their major functions. You need to use these objectives as your study guide. So when you review for the quizzes or exams or practicals, you should be able to explain each objective without simply reading it from the slide. So this is kind of like your checklist. Now, before we start the lecture, I want to let you know that in Blackboard, under Module 1, you're going to see some additional tools that I've put in there, study tools. One is a reading guide. So what that is it's a reading guide, and I uploaded it for Module 1. You can print that out or use it on a tablet, however you prefer. And then as you read through the chapter, you're able to take notes on there. And that reading guide follows the chapter. So it's like you don't have to write out every word. You can take, it's like guided notes. And since the pictures are on there, it helps you to basically make a really good set of notes. Okay, the other thing that's available is on the eText, Pearson, there's a study area. And in there, there is more slideshow information and different types of notes that you can also fill in the blank when you're listening to the other lecture videos. So option 1 is to listen to my videos. I'm going to cover everything. All the learning objectives will be in my lectures, and it'll all be right there. But if you need more help, or you just need it explained a different way, you're not grasping it from how I'm getting it, you can look in there and go to whatever area it is in your chapter, and it will give you a video or a lecture on that subject. And along with that, it has guided notes with that. So there's multiple ways for you to be able to understand the information. So that way, if you're a visual learner or you need to read it, there's something for everyone. Okay. So make use of those tools in the eText, and that will help you when you get stuck or something's just not clicking anywhere throughout this course and the next course, Bio 139. All right, so let's get started. Let's begin with two terms that are at the center of the course, anatomy and physiology. Anatomy is the study of structure. It asks questions such as, what does the body part look like? Where is it located? What structures surround it? Physiology is the study of function. It asks questions like, what do the structures do? And how does it do it? A simple way to remember this is that anatomy is form, while physiology is function. In practice, the two are closely connected. To understand how an organ works, we usually need to understand how it is built. Anatomy can be divided into several areas. Gross or macroscopic anatomy examines the structures that can be seen without a microscope. Regional anatomy looks at all of the structures within one particular region, such as the abdomen or the leg. Systemic anatomy allows one organ system throughout the body, such as the nervous or cardiovascular system. Surface anatomy uses visible or palpable features on the outside of the body to help us locate deeper structures. Clinically, this is useful when locating pulses, blood vessels, muscles, or body landmarks. Microscopic anatomy deals with structures that are too small to be seen by the naked eye. Cytology is the study of cells, while histology is the study of tissues. You will use histology throughout this course, especially when identifying tissues and understanding how their microscopic structures relates to their function. Developmental anatomy studies structural changes throughout the lifespan. And embryology is a specialized area that focuses on development before birth. In lab, you will get direct practice with microscopic anatomy by examining cells and tissues under the microscope. Physiology can also be divided into specialties. These are often based on organ systems. Renal physiology studies kidney function. Neurophysiology studies how the nervous system works. Cardiovascular physiology focuses on the heart and the blood vessels. Physiology often requires us to look at what is happening at the cellular and molecular levels. That's why chemistry and physics are important in anatomy and physiology. Concepts such as electrical currents, pressure gradients, diffusion, and chemical reactions help explain how the body functions. So don't think of chemistry as a separate subject. We're going to use it as a tool to help us understand the body. This slide introduces one of the most important principles in the entire course, the complementarity of structure and function. The basic idea is that what a structure can do depends on how it's built. Anatomy and physiology are inseparable. So look at the example of the teeth. Incisors have sharp edges, so they will be well suited for cutting molars. Molars have broad, flatter surfaces, so they are better suited for grinding. Throughout the semester, whenever you learn a structure, ask yourself, how does this shape, arrangement, or tissue composition help it perform its job? That question will help you move from just memorizing things to understanding things. We're now moving to the second major topic, the levels of organization. You should be able to place the levels in order from simplest to most complex and give an example of each one. As we go through the next slides, notice that there are higher levels that are built from the levels below it. So the human body is organized in a hierarchy. We begin at the chemical level with atoms and molecules. Molecules combine to form the structures found inside the cells. Cells form the tissues. Tissues combine to form organs. Multiple organs working together form an organ system. And then finally, all the organ systems together make the complete organism. The order that it goes down is chemical, cellular, tissue, organ, organ system, and organismal. This sequence is important because problems at a simpler level can affect every level above it. For example, a change in a molecule can affect cell function, which may eventually affect the entire organ or organism. This figure puts the levels of organization into one continuous example. At the chemical level, atoms combine to form molecules. Molecules are used to build organelles in cells. Here, the example is a smooth muscle cell. Similar smooth muscle cells combine to form smooth muscle tissue. Different tissues then combine to form an organ, such as a blood vessel. Then blood vessels work with the heart as part of the cardiovascular system. All of the organ systems together make the human organism. So when studying this figure, don't just memorize the labels. Be able to explain how each one moves from one to the next to the next, because they all build on each other. Our third major topic is a survey of the organ systems. You should be able to identify the major organs associated with each system and describe the system's overall function. At this point, you don't need to know every detail about every organ. The goal is to develop a big picture map of the body so that later chapters have a framework to fit into. So the human body has 11 major organ systems. They are the integumentary, skeletal, muscular, nervous, endocrine, cardiovascular, lymphatic, immune, respiratory, digestive, urinary, and reproductive systems. A helpful study strategy is to learn each system in 3 parts. First, the major organs, second, the major function, and third, 1 or 2 ways it interacts with the other systems. And remember that these systems do not operate independently. Homeostasis depends on a constant communication and cooperation among all of them moving together. The integumentary system includes the skin, hair, nails, sweat glands, oil glands, and sensory receptors in the skin. Its most obvious function is protection. The skin forms a barrier between the internal environment of the body and the outside world. It helps protect against physical injury, pathogens, and water loss. It also helps to regulate body temperature, contains sensory receptors, and participates in vitamin D production. Think of the integumentary system as the body's external covering and one of its first lines of defense. The skeletal system includes bones, joints, cartilage, and associated structures. Its major functions include support, protection, providing a framework for movement. Muscles pull on bones to create movement, so the skeletal and muscular systems work very closely together. Bones also store minerals such as calcium and phosphate, and red bone marrow is an important site of blood cell formation. So the skeleton is not simply a rigid framework. It's a living tissue with important metabolic and blood-forming functions. The muscular system is responsible for movement. Skeletal muscles allow us to move the body, manipulate objects, maintain posture, and produce facial expressions. Muscle contractions also generates heat, which contributes to maintaining our body temperature. Later in the course, we're going to distinguish skeletal muscle from cardiac muscle and smooth muscle. For this organ system overview, focus on skeletal muscle as the major component of the muscular system. The nervous system is the body's fast-acting control and communication system. Its major components are the brain, spinal cord, and nerves. It detects changes both inside and outside the body, processes that information, and then produces rapid responses by activating muscles or glands. For example, if you touch a hot surface, sensory information travels to the nervous system, and a rapid motor response helps you to withdraw your hand or jerk your hand back. The nervous system works closely with the endocrine system, but nervous responses are generally much faster. The endocrine system is another major control system, but instead of using electrical signals through nerves, endocrine glands release hormones into your bloodstream. Hormones help regulate processes such as growth, metabolism, reproduction, stress response, and fluid balance. Major endocrine organs include the pituitary, pineal, thyroid, adrenal glands, pancreas, ovaries, and testes. Endocrine effects are often slower to begin than nervous system responses, but they may last much longer. The cardiovascular system. It consists primarily of the heart and the blood vessels. The heart acts as a pump, while blood vessels provide pathways for blood to travel throughout the body. Blood transports oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, hormones, heat, and waste products. This makes our cardiovascular system a major transportation network connecting nearly every tissue in our bodies. Many other organ systems depend on circulation. For example, the respiratory system adds oxygen to the blood, while the digestive system adds absorbed nutrients. The lymphatic and immune system help maintain fluid balance and defend the body. Fluid that leaks out of the blood vessels into the tissues is collected by lymphatic vessels and eventually returned to the bloodstream. This system also contains important immune structures, including lymph nodes, the spleen, the thymus, and the lymphatic vessels. Lymphocytes and other immune cells help recognize and respond to foreign substances and pathogens. So think of this system as both a fluid recovery network and an important part of the body's defense system. The respiratory system brings oxygen into the body and removes carbon dioxide. Air travels through structures such as nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and the lungs. Gas exchange occurs in the lungs where oxygen moves into the blood and carbon dioxide moves out of the blood. Your respiratory and cardiovascular systems work very closely together. The respiratory system exchanges gases, and the cardiovascular system transports those gases between the lungs and the tissues. The digestive system breaks food down into smaller molecules that can be absorbed and used by the body. Major structures include the oral cavity, your mouth, your esophagus, the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus, along with accessory organs such as the liver. After digestion, nutrients are absorbed into the blood or lymph and transported to cells. Materials that cannot be digested or absorbed are eventually eliminated through your waste. The key idea is that the digestive system converts food into usable nutrients. The urinary system includes the kidneys, ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. The kidneys filter the blood and remove nitrogen-containing wastes, but their job is much broader than waste removal. They're also essential for regulating water balance, electrolyte concentrations, acid-base balance, and blood volume. Urine formed by the kidneys travels through the ureters to the bladder and then leaves the body through the urethra. Later in our class, you're going to see that the urinary system plays a major role in maintaining homeostasis. The reproductive system is a specialized system for producing offspring. In the male reproductive system, the testes produce sperm and male sex hormones. Ducts and glands help transport and support sperm. Major structures shown here include the testes, penis, scrotum, ductus deferens, and the prostate gland. In the female reproductive system, the ovaries produce oocytes and female sex hormones. Other structures, including the uterine tubes, uterus, and vagina, support fertilization, development, and birth. Mammary glands produce milk after pregnancy. Unlike other organ systems, the reproductive system is not required for the survival of an individual, but it is necessary for continuation of our species. That concludes lecture 1. Before moving on, make sure that you can do 3 things: distinguish anatomy from physiology and explain why they are related. List the 6 levels of organization in the correct order and identify the 11 organ systems with their major functions. Use the learning objectives at the beginning of the lecture as your checklist. If you cannot explain one of them without looking at the slide, that's an area you need to review before you continue.